How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Baseball Dynasty Bahdcast. I'm your host, Keith Demolder. Another solo pod for you today. We are officially under 1 week away from the MLB season starting, and I'm excited. Appreciate you folks joining us here for this edition of the pod. It's going to be a little quicker podcast today as spring training is wrapping up. We have, again, like 4 more days after today of spring training baseball. I'm excited for the season to finally get underway. We'll have a little bit of some updates on some guys getting cut, some guys getting optioned, and some, I guess, as the season is about to start, some quick claims as opening day is just around the corner. So we'll get to that in just a moment. But for now, let's first start with the opening day rotation finds here on the pod. So here's the list right now in the Winterfell League of guys that are available that are likely to find themselves in the opening day rotation. These are starters or a couple of long relievers that we could see potentially in the opening day kind of slate. So just going down the list: Adrian Hauser for the Giants, Steven Matz, Max Scherzer, Bryce Elder, Kyle Leahy, Eric Lauer, Carmen Mlodzinski, Jake Latz, Jose Urquidy, Lance McCullers Jr., Eric Fetty, Mike Soroka, Sean Burke, Taijuan Walker, Aaron Savali, Jake Irvin, Joe Boyle, Shawnee Mania, Andre Palante, Davis Martin, and recently added as well, Brandon Williamson. So these are a couple players that, again, have a potential to break out. A lot of them haven't got because of obvious reasons. I mean, they weren't that great last year. A lot of these guys were fighting for spots, have really only gotten spots because of a lot of injuries, guys getting sent down, and they performed somewhat well, so they got themselves a spot potentially on the opening day roster. At least that's what it's looking like right now. So anyway, going down the list, Hauser. I mean, I guess if you want me to star some guys, these are all starred, as Joey talked about on the pod. Like, these are all guys that have the star. They're guys that we're watching out for. They're not on our team because we don't have enough room right now, but these are guys that potentially could get the call in case there's an injury or something like that happens. Mlodzinski, by the way. Apologies for mispronouncing his name. Anyway, I digress. So a guy that I've kind of been always high on is a guy like Sean Mania. He's been on our team. I mean, we saw him in 2024, had a great season, was a double-digit fiend, especially towards the end of the year. A great pickup for us, really helped us get to the playoffs. Issue with him, I mean, you look at the Mets rotation, and they're going to, at least as far as we know, run with a 6-man rotation, which the question really should have been, why did, if Kodai Senga is going to be on the opening day roster, why did us as a league not go to Travis sooner and try and get him from Travis? Because he got optioned, and we figured, all right, well, he's a bum. He's out of the league. We're not going to see him again, but he maybe has life back in his pitches, so that's a guy to look out for sure. So anyway, looking at Sean Mania, though, I think that Mania is a guy, he's a high K guy. Even last year in his games, he would have, he would get positive numbers because he had so many strikeouts, but he's at least post-injury, because he got hurt, came back. He was a guy post-injury who wasn't going to throw a ton of pitches or go like long stretches. So he would go like 4 or 5 innings, barely count. He wouldn't get sometimes 5, wouldn't be eligible for the win, and then you lose out on points there. Also, times we give up runs. The Mets offense was hit or miss last year at times, so I think that was kind of the issue with Sean Mania. Even though he's got great breaking stuff, the issue is his fastball has yet to hit 90 this season, or at least in the offseason in spring training. And so that's the biggest question, kind of like a Carlos Estevez. Although Estevez, we know, can throw 95, 96, whereas Mania was never really that kind of guy. Lefty, kind of a weird arm slot. that's kind of his bread and butter, at least in the later half of his career. So some questions about him. But the rest of these guys, they could go for double digits. Just kind of depends on who they have. So taking a look at Max Scherzer, Bryce Elder, like these are guys on teams that are hurt. Elder, especially on the Braves, which there's questions right now. Is Elder going to get the opening day start? I think he will. I think he'll be on that roster, but J.R. Ritchie and Didier Fuentes are both giving him a run for his money right now. I mean, Fuentes has literally not allowed a hit. Has not allowed a hit in spring training, which is pretty insane. Granted, he has been facing top-level competition all the time, so, faces Major League bats, maybe he's going to get hit around again like we saw last season. So, big questions. I think they probably keep him in AAA until the time is right and then bring him up. So, that's why I like Bryce Elder. I mean, Bryce Elder, at least looking at the stats from last year, he was a guy that very boob and also very bust. You looked at, kind of what he brought to the table. He's a guy that's going to go for double digits. He had, I believe, in his last 11 starts, had 4 20-point games and was in double digits for nearly all of them. But when he was bad, when he was in the negative, he was really bad. And so that's the biggest question is, like, can you even trust a guy like Bryce Elder to perform? Like, can you trust that he's not going to screw over your week with a -10, which he had twice after August 14th? He had a ton of stinkers last year. -21, -27 against Philly. But he's a guy that, to start the year, double digits the entire month of May, and then he got hurt, right? So he'll go 6. He'll go for long stretches. It's just a matter of, is he going to get run support, and is he going to be effective, which sometimes he is, sometimes he's not. And he's a very frustrating player. But down the stretch, I mean, that was a guy that we should have got. Fortunately, I believe Zane got him. Let's check the fantasy transaction. Yeah, Zane got him for $7, right? So he's a guy that probably should get got. He's going to go, multiple times he went 7 innings and had 6 or more Ks. Like in his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 starts, he had 6 Ks or more. So we know we can get strikeouts and go for long stretches. It's just limiting the runs given up and limiting the hits. That's the issue as well. Anyway, I digress. So Bryce Elder, he's a guy that we're keeping an eye on, especially because he's young, 26. Like, that's pretty good. To be honest, I'm shocked that Joey hasn't gotten him, given Joey's makeup of his roster right now. I like him. Some other guys to mention, I mean, Scherzer, we know, we kind of talked about in the other pod, that Scherzer's velocity is up. He's a guy that has a track record. We know he's successful. He's been solid this spring. And there's that injury to Trey Savage right now, where Savage is not going to be on the open day roster. He's going to be on the IL. So there is room for Max Scherzer to be in this rotation. Kyle Leahy, a guy you're kind of hoping as a Bubic-esque kind of start to his rotation days, if you will. This is Kyle Leahy, a guy who is mainly long relief. He has started in the past, but he's not known as a starter. Mainly a bullpen guy. Not necessarily high Ks, but he's got a good ERA. He's productive, gets outs. And so Kyle Leahy is getting bumped up to the rotation this year, given that St. Louis doesn't really know what they're doing. I mean, Dickie Fitz got options, so it's going to be Leahy in this rotation. I know Bubic had started previously and then went back to relieving and then back to starting, whereas this is Leahy's first real time being the guy. I think he's worth a shot. He's not super old. I think it's worth at least a claim, especially if your team is not good. That could be a guy who's a bit of a dark horse. He's 28, not horrendous. But yeah, 3.07 ERA last year. It's pretty solid. Yeah, I'd like to see what he can do. Yeah, and then kind of same thing, same, like with the Jays. Eric Lauer now appears to be that fifth starter, given the injury to Savage and also to Jose Barrios. Lauer, we know he's been like that long relief kind of guy for the Jays last year. We know Lauer can start. What will it look like this year? I don't know. That's the big question. But again, all these guys, they're kind of mid. I'm not gonna lie, but they're worth a shot. And I feel like in fantasy, again, it just depends on your perspective. Do you want a guy who's risky? Do you want a guy like Bryce Elder who could get you 20 or get you -10? I think for at least our pitchers, I think we're fine in starting pitching right now, the Bahds, that is. But I think that's kind of been our bread and butter is guys who are a little bit risky, but who have the double digit potential. Just because this league is so I guess competitive. Moving down the list, Jake Latz, a guy that is like him and Urquidy have kind of like that fifth spot in the rotation that is it's a little tentative. It doesn't feel like this should be the thing. Like when you think about the Rangers, you think Jake Latz really like Latz is your fifth starter. Same thing with Steven Matz in Tampa, right? It's like, do I really want this guy? I mean, even the fact that Taijuan Walker is in the Phillies rotation, considering what they have been. I know that Wheeler is injured right now, but a lot of these guys, it's like, wow, you're really the fifth starter on a good team. I don't know how I feel about that, but clearly, things are still in the air, right? Like things have the chance to change. It's a week away, which I know you think, well, this is pretty finalized now. Anything can happen right now. Any guy can get hurt. We're seeing guys get hurt right now. So until opening day happens, there's still things that have yet to be cemented for a lot of these teams. So anything can happen, but this is kind of the way it's looking, at least reportedly. I would have had Anthony Kay on here, but Tommy got him, which we will talk to Tommy later tonight. Recording this right now, Thursday afternoon, so we'll have Tommy in the pod, and that pod will likely come out tomorrow. But anyway, in the meantime, we saw Joe Boyle get dropped by Alec. Excuse me. It'll be interesting to see what Tampa does. I always feel like they have good pitching. No matter who is in there, I feel like their starters are always good. And I know they lost a lot of arms. I don't know if this is like a rebuilding-esque type season. They're back in the Trop this year, so that is better for pitchers because they're not going to give up so many home runs. We will see. We will see. I think there's a couple of veterans on here who I put on here because they're going to get starts, but I don't know what's going to happen. Number one, Lance McCullers Jr., a guy that we've known in the past to be a dog, but has gotten hurt. Fastball velocity is down. Not entirely sure what's going to happen this year. I mean, they're going to go with the six-man rotation in Houston. But could McCullers bounce back? That's a question. You're a team in the league. You could take a shot on him. Aaron Savali, a guy that former Bod. We've had him a ton of times. He's not flashy, but he gets outs. He goes 5 or 6. And for the Athletics, they're putting the trust in him. Maybe new scenery. He's going to be a guy. But I don't trust. Same with Taijuan Walker. It's like, or even a Mike Soroka, Eric Fetty. These are veterans that we know can pitch, but are they going to be productive and are they going to be more bust than boom? Jake Irvin, same thing. A lot of questions. It's like. Those are risky. And I think if you're going to pick up a guy, you would hope that he's going to be more boom than bust, and especially if he's old. I could see you picking up a Bryce Elder because, he's younger, or Palante because he's younger, or Davis Martin, or even Brandon Williamson, a guy that made the Reds opening day rotation, at least as for right now. That appears to be what's going to happen. So we will see. I think the guy that I think the top 3, if we had to rank them, which I think they're kind of ranked right now, but these are just kind of not even alphabetical, just put them in as I saw them. Probably number 1 would be Scherzer. Number 2, I think, would be Hauser, and then notice how all their names have an ER at the end, huh? Be Hauser, Scherzer, Elder, I think, in that order. Maybe Scherzer on top. I don't know. Just kind of. I think a lot of teams in the league have yet to become legal. T-Flow, and a lot of guys need to switch people around, and there's going to be some roster reorienting here in the next couple days, especially as Sunday approaches and teams need to be legal. So, I'm excited to see who gets got. I'm surprised to get who gets dropped, especially from Bouchard's team because he has one guy he needs to drop. So, we will see there. But anyway, that's the opening day rotation fantasy finds. So, moving along the list. Just kind of giving you a bit of an update, as we mentioned, with with Richard Fitz and Dickie Fitz. He's amongst a ton of talented guys who got dropped or who got cut this week from Major League rosters. So going down the list, Caden Dana, Mitch Spence, Kyle Hurt, Santiago Espinal actually got picked up, but wanted to include him in the in this week's transactions, if you will. River Ryan, Carson Weisenhunt, Fitz, Amimelech Ortiz, Harry Ford, Jonathan Cannon, Tanner Gordon, Idell Amador, Cameron Meisner, John Rave, Ryan Berger, MJ Melendez, Christian Scott, Blake Tidwell, Jacob Melton, and Carson Williams Arbod, who thankfully we can now move to minors, but there are some questions with him, whether he's actually going to get promoted again because Taylor Walls, who was supposed to be the starting shortstop, is now out with an oblique strain, I believe. So there's some questions there. But looking at these cuts, again, not shocked. These are a lot of guys who are former top prospects. A guy like Dana, River Ryan, Harry Ford, top prospect. Jacob Melton Williams as well. Amador, same thing. So a couple of these names are top guys. These are, I don't want to call them AAA guys or it's called quadruple A guys. I don't think they've earned that title. I feel like that title is exclusively for guys who are older, like maybe not Isaac Collins, but like a Zach Cole or a George Valera. Like these guys are older. Some of these guys are like MJ Melendez. I think could probably fit that mold, but like Dickie Fitz has had success in the league. I don't think he's a guy that is necessarily a bum or like a career AAA guy. Like I think he has a chance to be something. So we will see. But these guys are all like really on the top echelon of AAA that maybe given a different organization would actually make the opening day roster, but due to either injury or just too many cooks in the kitchen sort of thing, they are going to be in the minors, which, hey, getting some more seasoning, I think that's probably what Melton needs for the Rays, or what Carson Williams needs as well, considering that his spring wasn't that productive. There was some strikeout concerns last season, so unfortunately with Walls getting hurt, it's like, all right, what do they do? I wouldn't mind them bringing in maybe a free agent signing or something, but who knows? I mean, because I'm not sure how the options work. I don't know if they can just say, "Oh, psych, we actually didn't option him for Williams," but I don't know. We will see. Anyway, so that's been this week's cuts. Not shocked, but I think that these are guys that we are likely to see in the majors this year at one point or another. Like the injuries are going to happen, and guys are going to get the call. So we will see. All right. So speaking of too many cooks in the kitchen, I made this list of teams that have a lot of talent, and it's an embarrassment of riches. Their cups are running over, as they say. I know people look at the Pods one and think, "What the hell are you talking about?" I will get there. So we got the Mariners, we got the Red Sox, Orioles, Yankees, Astros, Tigers, Jays, and then the Pods at the very end, which, I mainly just want an excuse to talk about the Padres. But all these teams, in my opinion, have too many cooks in the kitchen, which, again, is a good thing. You want to have a ton of depth, but it also is making things pretty complicated. I'd say the number one team with this in a good way, in almost the best way, is probably the Mariners right now. So you look at the Mariners squad, and this is a roster that, in terms of the lineup, is a lineup that is going to be super platoon heavy. And it's so funny. You got multiple kind of positions that are going to be platooned. So the right-handed hitting, excuse me, the lineup against right-handed pitchers: Brendan Donovan, Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez, Josh Naylor, Randy Rosarena. That's likely to be the top five. No surprises there. Those are guys that are fantastic bats. No shock. Then the 6, 7, 8, 9. That is where we're going to see a ton of changes. Luke Raley, Dominic Canzone, J.P. Crawford, Cole Young. And Crawford, I know there's been some injury stuff with him, but he's likely to stay at short, likely to be the guy. But there's a couple of other players on this roster that are going to get at bats as well. Leo Rivas, Rob Refsnyder, and Victor Robles. So Cole Young at second is an interesting one. Cole Young's still available and still hasn't got. Part of the reason he doesn't have minors eligibility anymore. But he's a former top prospect, a former first-round pick. There's some questions as to, can he really hit Major League pitching? Who's to say? We don't know. But at least for now, he's on the roster. And there's a good chance that he could be a guy. I don't know. We will have to see. And then, the Colt Emerson of it all. Emerson, could make the roster. He's a non-roster invite right now. Maybe he stays in AAA, but there is questions of whether Colt Emerson will make it. Maybe Rivas gets optioned down. But Refsnyder and Robles, they don't have any options. I mean, Refsnyder came, free agent signing for the reason that he absolutely mashes left-handed pitching. So we will see there. But yeah, a ton of lefty bats in this roster. Donovan, Naylor, Raley, Canzone, Crawford, Young, all lefties. And I mean, you have the switch hitting Cal Raleigh, of course, as well. But just kind of a wild scene with so many left-handed bats. But yeah, a ton of cooks in Seattle's kitchen, which is good for them. It's just a matter of, all right, who's going to be successful? We don't know. Looking down the list, we got the Sox, O's, Yankees, a lot of the AL East, really. I guess I'll touch on the Sox real quick. So for the Sox, for me, they have a lot of cooks, but they're not all great cooks. I think that's kind of the issue. Where the Mariners, I believe in the Mariners a little bit more. So looking at it's mainly Roman Anthony's going to start. Trevor Story's going to start. Jarren Duran, they have him DHing according to Fangraphs. But the outfield, I mean, you have so much talent in the outfield. You got Duran, you got Anthony. Those are must starts. Wilyer Abreu has earned his keep as well. And then you got Ceddanne Rafaela, another guy who no issue starting him. He's just such a good glove that's why they like him. But you go to the outfield, right? You got Masataka Yoshida, the guy that they brought in from Japan, who they're giving him a lot of money. They gotta make sure to play him. Andrew Monasterio, who they brought over in the trade. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, another guy to think about. And then Marcelo Mayer, another guy. And Caleb Durbin at third. So I think this is a little bit less than Seattle. I think that we're going to see a little bit less platooning since they have so many righties. But I think that just that outfield is very crowded. And Tristan Casas is coming back too. So that, I know Roman Gonzalez is probably out for a while, but with Casas making his way back, the question is, where does he go? And can't forget the Christian Campbell of it all. Unfortunately, our guy, who's probably going to start the year in AAA, I get that, but let's say he starts mashing in AAA, where do you bring him up? Is Monasterio the guy that gets called down? I don't know. So, it's just like, if you have Casas who comes back to the squad, what happens? Who's going to DH at that point? Because you got Duran, who maybe he plays right, or maybe he's just, maybe he's just a DH. But then, is Contreras always at first base? Do they kind of switch off? I mean, I don't know. So there's a lot of cooks in the Red Sox kitchen offensively. Just wondering what they do with that. For the Tigers, I think this one is a little bit less cookie, if you will. But I think there's some interesting things that need to happen before the lineup is really solidified. Kevin McGonigal, his status for opening day. He's been raking this spring. He's had a lot of high exit velocity type things. The question is, what does he get? Does he get the call? I don't know. Plays good short. He's got pop. He's a top prospect. One of the best in baseball. Some are saying so. He's plays short, and that's where he's likely going to be. Now, there's so much other infielders right now. I think the outfield, is fine. Kerry Carpenter in right, Riley Green in left, Parker Meadows in center. I got no problem with that. Jahmai Jones likely to make the roster as well since he's out of options too. Jahmai Jones, a sleeper. I don't think he'll get the starts, but he was a guy that had a high OPS last year. Hit for slug, didn't hit for a ton of average, but projected right now to have a 114 WRC plus. So who knows? Either way, then you got Matt Vierling of it all too. So I think in terms of like the left side of the infield, I think Spencer Torkelson will get the starts at first base. There's no doubt about it. But second, short, and third is kind of where there's that log jam. And I know, I'm hearing Nick in the back of my head of like, this guy's a bum, blah, blah, blah. But right now they got Javi Baez, Zach McKinstry, Colt Keith, Gleyber Torres, and Kevin McGonigal all fighting for three positions. And Javi Baez is a guy that's getting paid a ton of money right now. Torres, and this kind of goes back to the trade, which we will discuss later tonight on this pod. But there's just some questions. I think Torres, obviously he's going to get the majority of the starts, no question. But what happens with McGonigal? What happens with Colt Keith? What happens with McKinstry or Baez? Do they just plug and play depending on the situation? Keith's a left-handed bat. McGonigal left-handed bat, but a lot of these guys are righties on the bench right now. So maybe it's a platoon situation as well. I just think that's something that they have to figure out. Guys do have options. Colt Keith does have options. We could. I don't know. We'll just have to see. Maybe McGonigal doesn't make the roster, and this is all kind of a moot conversation. But Tigers have some decisions to make, so we'll see. Anyway, moving up the list, the O's. I think that a lot of people are predicting that Baltimore is going to be the team to break out this year. I mean, they added Alonso, they added Taylor Ward, they have Gunnar Henderson, one of the top young players in the game. Basayo likely to get a ton of starts at the DH this year. And they've added some kind of depth pieces like a Blaze Alexander from Arizona, who I think is an interesting guy. They have a ton of cooks in that kitchen. We got Mountcastle likely on the bench. Jeremiah Jackson, a guy that we saw was hot last season, fantasy-wise. Dylan Beavers, another guy, top prospect. Leody Taveras, who I don't really care a ton about, but he's a switch hitter. Colton Cowser in the outfield. So the question really, we know Ward's going to start in the outfield. Tyler O'Neill in right for sure. Who gets kind of these outfield reps? Who do we see at second base? Who do we see at third base all the time? And I think they have a lot of cooks in the kitchen, which is good. But the question is, like, when guys come back, what happens? Jackson Holiday, when he comes back, does that mean Jeremiah Jackson gets the boot? Jordan Westberg, who likely could be out for a long time. Who knows when he's going to come back as well. But yeah, just looking at their minors, they did add Tyro Estrada as a free agent signing. I don't think he's going to get brought up. He's kind of a bum. But yeah, like a Heston Kjerstad, Enrique Bradfield Jr., even Jokenzie Noel. These are all guys that are talented and are likely to be playing well and vying for spots. So I think when it comes to cooks in the kitchen, they have guys, but like, are they all great? Not necessarily. But definitely interesting things to watch. Who gets the starts, who doesn't. For the Astros, I think that a lot of their position guys are mainly solidified. Christian Walker, he will start at first. Yainer Diaz, he will be behind the plate. Correa probably at short. Jordan likely to DH. Isaac Paredes at third. Altuve at second. I guess I'm more looking at the outfield. You got the trade with Toronto to bring over Joey Loperfido, Cam Smith. This is a lineup with just 2 left-handed bats, so they desperately need some lefties. But yeah, just kind of wondering, like Bryce Matthews, he was a top prospect, especially in the organization. Zach Cole, our guy, currently in the minors. Nick Allen likely to be just that kind of defensive guy, but yeah, like when Jeremy Pena comes back, where is Correa going to go? He's going to play second. He's going to play third. Where's Isaac Paredes going to go? Is he going to, who's going to play the outfield? Are we going to see the Altuve playing in left thing again? That's the question for me. And they have an embarrassment of riches. I think maybe Loperfido goes to the bench, and we see someone go to the outfield. Cam Smith, a guy who was supposed to be an infielder, now he's playing the outfield. So that's the question. Pena, his status is still up in the air. I will say the Astros have a lot of cooks when it comes to starting pitching, especially with the guys they have on injured reserve right now. I mean, Ronel Blanco, Brennan Walter, Wisniewski, Hader, Hurt, Pearson, Souza, De Los Santos. They have a ton of hurt guys. But right now, they're running with a 6-man rotation, and then they got A.J. Blubaugh, who's going to be in long relief. So they got a ton of guys that could start, and then you look at their minors. Spencer Arrighetti, Jason Alexander, Colton Gordon, Miguel Uyola. They have a ton of depth. They have so many cooks, especially in their defensive kitchen, so to speak. So an embarrassment of riches in Houston, and they're in a good spot. For the Yankees, meanwhile, I put that there mainly because they do have a ton of good bats, of course, especially at the top of the lineup. Grisham, Judge, Bellinger, Rice, Stanton, Chisholm, Austin Wells. That is a pretty damn good front 7. Caballero can steal bags, and then Orion McMahon, who, is what it is. He strikes out so much, but it's a pretty good starting line, in my opinion. Then you got, C.J. Escara, who maybe he'll be a guy Goldschmidt on the bench, platoon guy, likely to get some at-bats. We'll see what he becomes. Ahmed Rosario, he's fine. And then even a non-roster, Randall Grichuk. But a lot of guys kind of, knocking on the door when Volpe comes back. What's going to happen with him? Oswaldo Cabrera, not really sure about him. But, you got a Max Schumann, a guy that they traded for from the A's. Paul DeYoung, another non-roster invite. George Lombard, Spencer Jones, Jason Dominguez. What happens with Dominguez? People are asking. People are wondering. Marco Luciano. They have a lot of depth in terms of bats. Does Dominguez go? Does he get optioned? Does he make the team? Does Grichuk get the boot? I don't know. We will see. So those are some question marks for New York. And then final last 2 teams is the Jays and the Pods. So for the Blue Jays, these are some things that I've been thinking about. I know Nick and I have talked about the trade that involved Dalton Varsho for Nick and Jonathan Aranda for, I believe, Zane. So, again, the Jays, their cup truly runneth over, especially when it comes to their outfield depth, and that's the biggest question for them. And again, we kind of see it kind of similar with the Jays and the Astros in the fact that they have these aging guys who, like a George Springer, like a Carlos Correa, who maybe aren't that agile anymore. So playing them at the DH, like with Jordan, they have to play him at the DH because maybe their fielding isn't super great anymore, but they still can swing the bat. These kind of guys, kind of they're too good offensively to not have them on your squad. Springer, there's some ankle concerns, things like that, right? But anyway, so he's likely the DH. But you look at the outfield, and there's a ton of versatility and a ton of guys that are going to get time. So Dalton Varsho, he's likely to be the starting center for the entire season. He's going to play a lot of their games at center. There's no doubt about it. But then, kind of, similar to some of the Mariners, we're going to see this platoon situation. So Addison Barger in right, and then of course they traded for Jesus Sanchez intentionally. Okamoto, Clement, and Menez on the infield. I think that's likely how it's going to stay. But the outfield, they got Davis Schneider, Nate Lucas, and Miles Straw, Varsho, Sanchez, and Barger. So you basically got 6 mouths to feed in the outfield. It's not like other teams where it's like, oh, this guy is, for sure the right fielder. This guy's for sure the left fielder because Sanchez is that lefty bat, whereas Schneider's a righty, Straw's a righty. I think if there's one guy who might get Das Boot or just be kind of a defensive replacement, it is Miles Straw. I mean, Straw can hit, but I don't, he can hit for average, but he's not going to hit for any pop. So we will see, but he doesn't have any options left, so he's going to get experience. Tony Santander likely to be out for a long time, maybe even the whole year. So that's a big question. But I think there's also some questions right now with Jimenez, not even just Leo Jimenez, but Eloy Jimenez, who's been hitting the cover off the ball. I mean, Jonathan Clase got optioned. Yohendrick Pinango, remember that name? He's one of the top guys for the Jays. But yeah, that's a big question. Like, what happens with Eloy Jimenez? I mean, probably he's going to start in AAA because he's a non-roster invite minor league guy. But I don't know. I think that there's a lot of mouths to feed for the Jays, and I don't know if they're all going to get fully fed fantasy-wise. These are just my questions. Maybe it is a platoon situation in the corner outfield spots, but I don't know. We will see. We'll see how it shakes out. Then for the Pods, I think that the roster, ironically enough, the lineup rather, is what I'm most excited about, despite there being kind of a lot of question marks. And like we've kind of said, the top 7 guys I like. I think it's solid. It's better than years past. Bogarts, Merrill, Machado, Toddy, solid front 4. Cronenworth, Laureano, solid. Gavin Sheets, also solid. Then you got that DH spot on Duhar, and then Freddie Fermin, who's fine. Excuse me, but Andujar, he's looked terrible this spring. I'm not gonna lie, he's looked like garbage and just swinging out of his shoes. I don't know, not really passing the eye test for me. That's a big question. Then on the bench, you got Campy, who I think we just got to get rid of him at this point. Just cut our ties. You got Nick Castellanos, Ty France, Bryce Johnson. Bryce Johnson going to make the roster. Castellanos as well, and a Ty France non-roster invite. So a lot of these non-roster invite guys, Sung Moon Song, Will Wagner, on the roster, but they're hurt, so they'll likely stay there. But yeah, big questions as to what happens to Jose Miranda. Does he start in AAA? Mason McCoy likely to start in AAA as well. A lot of guys have given the roster a run for their money, but I kind of like where the Pods are in terms of their bats. Like, Ty France, a guy who plays good defense at first, fine. He's got some pop. He can walk. I kind of like how many cooks they have in the kitchen. I just wonder who's going to be that DH, who's going to be who's going to play DH basically. That's I think the main question, or who's going to be that 4th outfielder. Bryce Johnson's a fine outfielder. He's quick. He plays a good glove. He has some pop, actually, surprisingly. But he's mainly known for being a speedster. So we will see. But yeah, I like the Pods lineup. All right. Finally, and then we have the not enough cooks in the kitchen. So these are teams that are absolute garbage going into the year. The Rays, the White Sox, the Guardians, the Twins, the Athletics, Cardinals, Angels, Royals, Nationals, D-backs, Rockies. Obviously, they are filling out their rosters. They have major leaguers on these teams, but I don't think that they have enough cooks in the kitchen. I'm also very upset at the Royals for not making enough moves this offseason, given just how talented their arsenal is on the pitching side. I guess we'll kind of start with them. I'll try and just highlight these teams. The front five, and if you want to count six with Carter Jensen, I think is really good. Michael Garcia, Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, Caglione. I think everyone is Caglianone. I think they're expecting him to be good this year. Jonathan India, hurt. Some questions if he's even going to be a guy. I don't know. Then you got Carter Jensen, a guy. I mean, he's one of my favorite, young players. Unfortunately, he's on Mark's team. He's going to be a special player to watch this year. That's for sure. And then you got Isaac Collins and Kyle Isabel. I mean, that is just tough. That is. I mean, their bench doesn't inspire a lot. They got some of these vets, a Lane Thomas, a Starling Marte, which, okay, sure. I don't know. I just really, really despise their minor league hitters. Jensen aside, Blakey Mitchell aside, Nick Lofton, Michael Massey, who was fine, he a former Bod, but I mean, Nick Lofton, Kyle Isbell, Isaac Collins. Don't get me wrong, I think Collins is fine. I liked the trade, by the way. Like I thought that was a fine trade. And Collins could be a guy. His first year last year for Milwaukee was decent, but Isbell, Lofton, Massey, like Lane Thomas, I don't know. I don't like it. I think that this team could spend more money and could have gotten more bats. And that was just always the thing for the Royals. They just never scored runs. I have multiple Royals pitchers, and it's always a no decision. Always a no decision. It is super frustrating. Or a loss, a 2-1 loss. They're like, it's just, this is a team that wins enough games, has Bobby Witt, one of the best players in the game, and they should not be doing this. They need to be spending. And you look at their minors, and it's like, who do they got? Like, who do they got? Oh, John Rave. Ooh, like Cameron Meisner. Ooh, Tyler Tolbert, Drew Waters. Like, with all due respect to them, or Gavin Cross. Like, who are these guys? Like, these guys are nobodies. With all due respect, Abraham Toro, I do like that they're actually able to get him, but I don't know. It doesn't inspire a ton of confidence, and I would be pissed if I was Bobby Witt. Like, you need to get him some help. It's just frustrating. Anyway, moving down the list. The Sox are young. I don't think they have not enough cooks. They just don't have not enough. They don't have enough old cooks, I guess you could say. A lot of these teams are really, really young. The Cardinals as well. This is a team that is super young. Like, taking a look at their roster, if my computer would cooperate. Yeah, they don't have a player right now, at least in their projected starting lineup against righties, over the age of 28. Alec Burleson. Allegedly, Nelson Velasquez is going to get the start, but Pajes, same thing. This is a team that has a ton of young players. They're super young, one of the youngest in the league. So they literally don't have any cooks, any veteran cooks. Like, their oldest guy who's likely to make the squad is Ramon Urias, who's 31, which I don't even know why. Yeah, he was fine last season, but not sure what we're doing. Even Lars Nootbaar, he's 28. So it's a youth kind of takeover for the Cards. We might see Sajaci. He's also almost 24. So it's not a bad idea. I think that's what their intention is to be young. But yeah, just not enough cooks by default. The Twins, same thing. They have a ton of young guys, of course, but they do have old guys, but they're just not good old guys. Trevor Larnach, fine. Ryan Jeffers, fine. Victor Carantini, fine. Josh Bell, okay. Ryan Kreidler, Austin Martin, James Outman. Like, these guys, they're getting up there. These were former top prospects, but now it's like, all right, like, can you play? Some people think that the Twins are going to be a breakout, and I vehemently disagree. Like, they have to be healthy, and that's the question. Always been, they've never been healthy. Byron Buxton, a prime example of that. Royce Lewis, prime example of that. I do like Luke Keyshaw. I think he's good. But aside from him, I don't know. Especially from a fantasy perspective, I don't have a ton of confidence in the Twins. Moving along here. The Rays, I mean, I think their top four is pretty solid, but after that, it's a pretty steep drop off. Yan Diaz, Aranda, Caminero, I think are really good. I'm obviously partial to Chandler Simpson, our dog, who could steal bags. But after that, I'm just not entirely sure. I mean, Nick Fortes, like the starting catcher, Veducia, Ben Williamson, Johnny DeLuca, Ryan Velade, like starting Gavin Lux at second. I don't know. This doesn't inspire a ton of confidence offensively, and I know they're kind of in a little bit of a rebuilding type of situation. I don't see this team winning a ton of games. Just being honest, especially the fact that they moved back to the Trop. I think this will be another 80-win team at most. And they have players in their minors who could turn into something, but like a Trey Morgan or Cooper Kinney, Jader Arenamo, Jacob Melton, same thing. But I think this team is going to be pretty hard to watch this year. Moving along, the guards. Oh my gosh, I hate the Guardians. Again, the AL Central is just so terrible. I hate watching them all season. Having pitchers on their team, it's just so infuriating to watch, and especially wasting Jose Ramirez's prime. Rhys Hoskins, okay, he might bounce back, but he also might hit 220. There's no telling what he's going to do. Another young roster, which I don't blame him for. Stephen Kwan, George Valera, our dog, obviously. But then you got like David Fry, Daniel Schneemann, Angel Martinez, Gabriel Arias, Brian Rocio, and then Bo Naylor behind the dish. Again, these are young guys who don't cost a ton, who are going to be above replacement level, but they're not going to be anything more special than that. And also, why are we employing Austin Hedges in the year of the Lord 2026? We cannot be doing this anymore. He is absolutely terrible. He Ks way too much. He's an offensive liability, one of the worst and one of the worst offensive catchers in recent memory. And he's still, again, they like his defense. Oh, he calls games well. 152 in 2024, 161 in 2025. Like an OPS plus of 47. He had a 21 OPS plus in 2024. And this man is getting paid. He's getting paid $4 million a year. It's unacceptable to me. I just cannot believe that they're actually having him on this team. So super frustrating. And they got some guys in the minors like Juan Brito, CJ Kafis, Cooper Ingle, obviously our dog Angel Henao, Jonathan Rodriguez, Nolan Jones, Petey Halpin. These are all guys that could be guys, but I think they just rely too much on their own prospects to turn into something. I mean, you look at one free agent, Rhys Hoskins, excuse me. Like Austin Hedges was the last free agent. I mean, come on, spend some money. It's just embarrassing. This is an embarrassing team, and Jose Ramirez is arguably one of the best bats in the league, and they're just wasting his prime. Anyway, I digress. Shocker. The A's, again, they got some talent, but they just have to round out their squad. Kind of like the Cardinals a little bit, like very young team. Like I think Brent Rooker is one of the top guys on their squad. Not entirely shocked that they might have another losing year this year. Like they did get Jeff McNeil, which was an interesting move to say the least. I like their squad though. I just don't think there's enough cooks in the kitchen. Just in terms of like free agents. I mean, they got a lot of young guys that they're giving a shot, like Carlos Cortez, Colby Thomas, Denzel Clark. So I think they got some good, solid young players. It's just I don't think they really need to keep some of these prospects. But they're saving money. They're waiting till Vegas to really go ham. So I can't blame them. I can't really blame him for that. So then looking at the D-backs, I think that obviously I love Geraldo Perdomo. He's our dog. But look at the rest of the squad. I mean, yeah, Marte, Carroll, all solid. But, I mean, they're just employing some bums. Carlos Santana, Nolan Arenado, James McCann. I mean, Ildemaro Vargas, Jorge Barrosa. Like, what are we doing? I know Jordan Lawler is going to be a guy this year, but this is a tough roster. Pavin Smith, I don't know. Not a ton of confidence for them. I think Arenado is going to bounce back. I've told Nick that many times, even though he doesn't like him. But I know obviously Luis Gurriel is recovering from his injury, but I don't know. I think that there is some depth for the D-backs in terms of their minor leagues, which could produce something. Or maybe we see Walschmidt this year. Maybe we see a guy like Tommy Troy. I don't know. But yeah, not enough cooks in this kitchen for sure. Rockies, same thing. It's a lot of these teams that don't have enough cooks. It's just a lot of young players. For the Nats as well, like just a ton of young talent. I think that is what they're doing. You look at their roster, it's a Joey-esque roster, folks. Like, oldest guy on their team is Drew Milas, who's 28, but starting 9 isn't over 27. You know, Keibert Ruiz is 27, but the rest of the guys, 22, 24, 23. 25, which you like. It's just going to take a couple years to get there, and they got to sign some free agents that they want to actually compete, which right now it doesn't really seem like that is a priority. So anyway, I digress. Yeah, I know this team should be like young squads, which is fine, but a lot of these teams do have some older players as well, so that's why I put them on here. But yeah, anyway, so that has been. I guess we could talk about the Rocks. The Rockies, I like. Oh, obviously, you'd love to get their bats because they're going to mash at Coors. That's always going to happen. But why are we spending money on Edward Julian? Why are we trading for him? We didn't need to do that. Another team, yeah, is pretty young-ish. I guess more on the upper echelon of young. They got guys like Jacob McCarthy. A lot of these guys that were top prospects for other teams that they just brought in, like McCarthy, top guy. I mean, again, Mickey Moniak is a prime example. Troy Johnston with Miami, Edward Julian, as we noted. Blaine Krim, guy for Texas, they got off waivers. Tyler Freeman from Cleveland. So we will see what happens. I mean, Paul DePodesta, the new regime in Colorado, maybe they could turn things around. But I don't think they'll turn things around with this pitching staff. Kyle Freeland, the opening day starter, Michael Lorenzen, Jose Quintana, Dolander, and Tomoyuki Sagano. That is a tough rotation, and not a good way. I don't know. We will see. But either way, that has been this edition of the Fantasy Baseball Dynasty Bahdcast. Tonight we were talking with Team Tom. Tommy will be on the pod, so make sure to watch. Then we'll have that out likely tomorrow. I will have that out, rather, tomorrow. So anyway, appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.